Titans, welcome to another video. In this video we'll talk about where used functionality to centralize your debugging. Whenever you're setting up parameters, you really need to know where they're being used, what is being triggered off them, and what is affecting them or what is getting affected by them. And that is so important because in a simple Titan web build, which maybe is 1 or 2 pages, fair enough, you can figure out easily. But when it's a full-blown huge portal, it's really important you know what you're doing and where you're doing it. So I'm going to set up a very simple use case, so please watch the entire video because you really need to understand the full premise behind it. So first thing we're going to do is we're going to set up a parameter which is used everywhere, is what we call a global parameter. So go over to the gear icon, click over to Tools, head over to Custom Parameters, and I'm just going to call this Global Account ID. And I'm going to give it a static value from Salesforce. This is the account, it's called Australia Hospital, and we're just going to bring back the related contact. That's all we're going to do. So we go over to default value, we click Apply and save. Next, what we're going to do is we're going to put a little button. I'll make it a bit wider. And I'm just going to change the button name to say, go to my contacts. And we're going to change the interactivity and configure an action, which means it's going to go over to page 2. Just like that. Apply, and save. Alright, let's head over to page 2. And what we're going to do is we're going to get a, let's say we're going to get a table. Now, this isn't table specific, so don't get confused. It's just a general use case that I'm building. And before I get a table, I must set up my local parameter. So we'll go over to page, click over the 3 dots, and we're going to say configure page parameters. So this is going to be my local parameter, and I'm going to call it local account ID. And I'm not going to give it a value, and I'm going to leave it empty. Click save. Like this. And then we will get a table. Table over here, we'll use contact. Up to 20 records, we will say account ID must equal my page, which is the local parameter, local account ID. Okay, this is what I'm choosing here, my local parameter. And then I will bring back something like contact full name, we will do email, and then we'll do account ID, and we'll set the reference to account name. Apply, and save. Alright, there's my table, looks pretty good. And now I'm just going to get 2 buttons. So this button here and this button over here. My first button, excuse me, is my first button here is going to essentially just going to execute my get. So I will say execute my get, and we'll leave this one over here. And then my second one is just going to take me back to the main page. And we'll just call this home. So, execute my get. So, we set up a get on that table, which is right now set up on alt trigger on load, but I'm going to change it to user action. Click apply, close, and we will go over here and just simply configure on click action, configure action, go over here, do the get, job done. Nothing more needs to be done here. But over here we will say interactivity, on click action, we will do predefined, we'll say go to page, and we'll say go to page 2. Apply, and save. Now here's the thing, when this is clicked, I want my global parameter to be passed into a local parameter. So go to interactivity, configure action, affect elements, and I'm going to say affect my page param local account ID, set value from my global account ID, and then I click apply like this. Click apply again, apply again. Now here's the thing. When I go over to my local parameter here on page 2, I want you to look at this, where used. Okay, first of all, this parameter is used to do a get, which is going to bring back all the contacts. Next up, what it's going to do is essentially show you where used. Now this one's empty, and I'll show you what's going to do here. So what it's going to do here is essentially we're going to bring back the data in here, and I'm going to show you that in a second. And then affected by, you can see which rule this is getting affected by. You know, we set up a set value, so it is getting affected by the global parameter, which is setting the value from globally to locally. So this is what that rule is. Alright, so let's close. Now I'm going to set a condition on this. I'm going to say if my local account ID is not empty, which means it's populated, then I want to go ahead and disable a button. Now let me go and identify that button first, because we're going to give it a value. So go over to metadata, execute my get button, like this. Alright, done. So now let's go back in here, go over to page 2, we'll click on configure parameters, go over to configure conditions, is not empty, affect a button, which is going to be this button here, and we will just set a background color for it. So let's do background color to be red. Let's do red. We'll use this hex here actually. Let's use this hex code. And then we'll just use this over here. Yeah, that will do for now. So now here's my hex ID, and it looks pretty good. And now we'll just go ahead and apply it. And it's there, it's good to go, click apply, job done. Now, if I click on these 3 dots, have a look at the where used. You see that? This is what we just set right now, right? We'll set up this condition, we'll just say, hey, go ahead and set this color to be red. So now you can see for yourself where used means first we're doing a get, then we're setting a color, where used, affected by, what it's getting affected by is your global parameter. So now let's put all of this into play, and we'll paint the full picture for you. Let's go over to home, let's preview. Okay, let's go to my contacts. Now, first thing it's going to do, Salesforce is going to do the get. Okay, there's the get, done. You see it's set it to red, and then you can also see that we've passed the parameter from here to over here. Okay, if you didn't catch that, let's show you again. Let's go back, let's refresh this again. Let's preview. Okay, so again, debug mode, you can see that global account is done. If I go over here, you can see that the local account ID is empty. When I click on execute my get, it passes the parameter in here, where used, shows you all the results, and then this is set to red. And this is what we mean when we talk about where used. Essentially, every parameter that you set up, you can find out where it's used. And you just simply go over to pages, click over here, click to configure parameters, and then simply just click on where used, and you will see, hey, this is doing a get. This is, this is what it's doing. You can go back and reverse engineer it. You can even add a little comment so you know what it is, what it's getting affected by. It's actually getting affected by that global parameter getting passed into the local parameter, and so on and so on and so on. And yeah, that's how you do it.